In this training session, we are going to talk about how to drop and drag items onto a pivot table. Um, in this case, we're going to be using our budget pivot table from our Budget with Details spreadsheet. All the pivot tables work the same way, but this will be a good one to show you the basics of dropping and dragging items on and off the pivot table. There's a couple things I just want you to notice. In this case, columns A through D have drop-down filters on them. Columns E and M do not. The reason I'm showing you that is when you drop and drag items into these areas, they react a little bit differently depending on which side here you're putting it on. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to drag a few items that are on the current pivot table off the pivot table. The first thing I'm going to do is go over to my estimated escrow column and my balance including estimated escrow column, and we're going to remove those from this particular view of the pivot on the pivot table. So what you do is you click with your mouse, just a regular mouse click, and you want to click on the heading. Okay, you need to click exactly on it. If you click a little above it, see how it just clicked in a cell, or if you click even like right above it, it kind of just kind of highlights that column. If you click below it, it just is in a particular cell. So you want to be right on the heading and then just do a regular mouse click. When you do that, then drag your mouse up and you will see how there's the box with the arrow and then the X. This says, okay, I'm going to take that column and I'm going to remove it from your pivot table. So when you let your mouse go, then that column is no longer showing. It is still available to you, but it's no longer showing. I'll show you that in a few minutes. The next thing I'm going to do is show you how to remove another column in the same way. So here again, you click on the heading, and then you drag your mouse up, and you'll see the X. And when you let go, then that column also removes from your pivot table. Let's do a few more of those. I'm going to come to the beginning budget balance. I'm going to click on the heading and I'm going to drag up, and you'll notice the red X. Okay? So when you are practicing on your own, just sit down and simply practice. If you drag something off you didn't mean to, you have your undo button in Excel. So I'm going to say, oh, I didn't mean to do that budget column, so hit undo, and there your beginning budget balance column is back on your pivot table. But for now, I am going to go ahead and remove it from my pivot table. So what do? You click on the heading, you drag up, and you'll see the X, and it goes away. I'm going to do the same thing for the budget adjustments column. Click on the heading and drag up. So now you can see how we have a smaller amount of data, a little more concise for what I need for my report. Next thing I want to show you how to do is how to bring that back if you need to. What you can do is be anywhere in your pivot table. For this, you can just be anywhere and do a right click. And when you do, you will see Show Field List. Okay? So click there. And then everything that's available to you over on your Budget tab, in this case, is available to you here in this pivot table field list. So these two columns that I just removed earlier, see how they're here? And they just don't have a check on them, which means they're not currently in the pivot table or over here as an item for the pivot table. So you can open that pivot field table list, click on it, drag it back down, and say you wanted it to be, at the first where it was before. And if you don't do it right, it won't drop it. So there it put it back, and then you can take the budget adjustments and you can drop it back here. You can drag it here. Okay, so now those columns are back. If you notice, one thing I do need to show you is the formatting for those columns is not pretty like it was before. So it's just Excel, so you can come up and you can highlight those two columns, do a right click, go to Format Cells. These are currency. Okay, and I'm going to pick, for my case, to be, in parentheses and red. Okay, now when you do that, if you notice, these headings are black. I don't like that. I think it's hard to see and read, but you can click on a heading that's still white. You can come up here to your Home tab and click Format Painter, and then just come down here and take the little paintbrush and put it on top of those headings. And you can do that anywhere in Excel. But I like a consistent look. It's easier for me to see. So that's how you can drag columns off your pivot table and then go back and find them in your pivot table field list and put them back on your spreadsheet. So now I'm going to go over into this other area here where you have the arrows, and I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, I want to say I like this view, but I really need to see my object codes. So what I'm going to do is over to the far left in column A, you see some words here, and these are actually the column headings that are on the budget tab. So I'm going to take the object code here, and you see the black arrow. I'm going to click on object, and then I'm going to drag it down into my pivot table. And if you can see, as I move across, you see a bar between the columns. Okay, so right now I'm between the PRC description and the beginning budget balance. If I let go of my mouse, that's where the object is going to go. So I'm going to let go of my mouse and see it's going to put the object here. So that's, a very good view. Now what I want to do now is say, okay, I don't really want the PRC description. I think I want the object description. So to remove a field over here on this side of the pivot table, you do the same thing. You click on the heading and you drag it up. Now, if it has an arrow on it to filter by, it will put it over on the top left side of your pivot table. Okay, so you don't have to open the pivot table field list to find your item again. So wherever I drop this right here is where it's going to put that PRC description. So I'm just going to drop it here. So now you see the PRC description. Okay, if you want to see not the program code and you want to see the object description, come up and drag the object description and drop it. You can also filter here. So say you wanted to filter for just Fund 1, then it will show you that. So now what I want to do is unfilter and show you everything back. So both things work the same way. If you want to drop and drag, you can come up here and grab something that you want. Let's say you want to see the short account code, and you can drop it anywhere along here that you want. If I want to put it here, I just drop it there. If I decide I don't want to do it, I can just drag it back up. One thing that people often do, it's a very easy thing to do. Let me take this object description, put it back up at the top. And I'm going to take my object and I'm going to put it back at the top. See how I removed it? But now I'm going to take my object code and I'm going to drag it, and I'm going to accidentally put it over here. I mean to put it here, but I'm going to put it over here. And when I do that, it's going to take it a few minutes, but it's going to take all my values and split it out by object code. And when you do that, then it gets very long over here. And that's not a very pretty view, and you go, what in the world did I do? So you hit the undo button, and then your object is back up here. So now I'm just going to drop it in the correct place, and then you can see how nice that view is. One thing you can do is you can put totals. If you wanted totals here, field settings, just put an automatic total on it. And that's really something for another video. I just wanted to point that out to you. So I'm going to remove that, and here we go. Thank you for watching today. Go back to your computer, open up your spreadsheets, and try to drop and drag on your pivot tables. Thank you for watching.